Once upon a time, DICE created two of the most iconic modern military multiplayer shooters ever, Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. Games that harboured an era of competition between other titans in the genre, such as the Modern Warfare and Black Ops series. And after more than a decade of waiting, Battlefield Studios are finally gracing us with a new title to hopefully contend with other greats, Battlefield 6. The excitement for this title is electric, and it has everyone asking the two main questions. One, are we back? And two, will Battlefield 6 kill the new Call of Duty title? Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince anyone whether or not we're back or not. Ultimately, that's a personal choice, and you'll make your own decision based off of the stuff we've already seen from the Battlefield title within the beta and any of the teases we've had, but also when we finally get the full release. However, the topic of whether or not Battlefield 6 is going to be a COD killer is an interesting one, even if maybe a little narrow-minded. Now, Call of Duty's upcoming offering and current live service options have their audience feeling a touch ignored, and the whole franchise appears to be having a major identity crisis. We've just had the early reveal period for some of the Black Ops 7 stuff, and it seems to be leaving a lot of Call of Duty fans a little disappointed, and honestly, I really can't blame them. That being said, Call of Duty certainly isn't going anywhere. They have a ridiculous monopoly at the moment on the multiplayer FPS scene, and there's such a large fan base that even their worst titles seem to generate insane numbers of revenue. It's very reasonable to assume that this could potentially be quite a poor year in terms of Call of Duty standards, especially if the full release of Battlefield 6 matches anything of the hype and popularity that we've just seen from the beta. And this competition could be exactly what Call of Duty, and honestly just multiplayer first-person shooters in general, have really been needing. With any amount of luck, this should hopefully provide players with multiple options for fantastic games to play in the future. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the core principles that Battlefield 6 is built upon, and how these may help to not only improve the future development of Battlefield, but other titles such as Call of Duty as well. While none of these will directly kill the next Call of Duty title, I do firmly believe that if these are recognised and implemented by the studios that put together the Call of Duty games, it may have an impact on at least killing the current approach that we've come to expect from the franchise. So, let me know down in the comments what aspects we've come to see out of Battlefield 6 so far that you think could have a positive or hell, even negative impact on the future of Call of Duty and multiplayer shooters as a whole. First up on this list, we have to acknowledge Battlefield Labs. A truly fantastic decision by the Battlefield studios. In fact, I would argue maybe one of the absolute best decisions they've made thus far. As a combined testbed, marketing tool, and a key asset just to build and hype for an upcoming title, Labs has hit it out of the park. Now, conspiracy theories of intentional leaks and such like that aside, the exclusivity of getting into play an early build of an upcoming Battlefield game has undoubtedly been a major fact in the game's current popularity. But I'd argue an even more substantial outcome of the closed alpha testing is reports of feedback actually being heard and substantial changes being made over time. EA and DICE have given their community some major trust issues with their previous titles, and Battlefield 6 needs to work hard to regain it. That being said, Battlefield Labs and their ongoing communication definitely appear to be slowly amending what they initially destroyed. On top of this, it's resulted in the beta feeling like a rather well put together and polished game, because they've had months to test and refine key aspects of it. Well, it's certainly not perfect, it definitely doesn't have that work in progress in beta launch day feel that honestly is just becoming far too frequent in the gaming community these days. Hopefully, the success of this testbed combined with the beta's popularity will be recognised by others in the space, and more studios will look to build games alongside their community and actively seek out and act upon the feedback. This approach could massively help Call of Duty. As they continue to refuse to deviate from this 1 year release cycle, we're seeing more and more titles releasing in a bit of a rocky state and just not at all what their community wants. They feel incredibly out of touch. The devs then spend several months playing catch up to resolve issues, but core design choices tend to be set in stone, as they simply don't have the time to rework entire features and systems before the hype of the next title starts to build. That being said, good luck to Call of Duty trying to keep a lid on any of the NDAs if they decide to go down this route. Despite all the leaks and building hype, a particular sentiment was growing around the community. Remember all, no pre-orders. Honestly, a totally justified stance from a community that had been burned so many times before. But with pre-orders tends to come additional bonuses such as beta access and sometimes even early access to the main game. But this time around, DICE said hold my C4 and provided the entire player base with access to the beta, no pre-order needed. a very refreshing return to proper community service. While there was still technically an early access period, this simply required you to have previously signed up to labs or get a code via Twitch drops during the reveal event. As a matter of fact, they went so far with the whole "don't worry guys, you don't have to pre-order" approach that pre-ordering the game didn't grant you early access to the beta. And honestly, the most interesting takeaway from this whole open beta choice is that it's almost certainly helped to send their pre-order revenue through the roof of what their original expectations most likely were, especially when we look back at 2042 and its rather poor perception. While a large part of the community is still waiting for EA to fumble the ball in the launch of this game, many others are fully bought in with what they've already experienced so far. And honestly, I can't blame them. The beta weekend has been ridiculously fun, and it's a true testament of letting the game speak for itself. Now, unfortunately, as I alluded to slightly earlier in the video, casual or just arcade multiplayer shooters as a genre has really been going through a bit of a rough patch and having a major identity crisis, honestly for the best part of the past decade. With battle passes, over-the-top skins, and a new wave of subgenres such as movement shooters becoming ever more popular, it has some of us old-timers really struggling to find their footing a little. And this appears to be becoming more and more true with Call of Duty, with their latest offering of American Dad skins just falling completely flat on its face. Well, it's certainly not the first time we've seen this level of disconnection between the game's settings and the skins they inevitably introduce. We tend to at least get a few months before things start ramping up. But for Black Ops 6, we had wacky shark skins in the store from almost the get-go, and I see no indication to suggest that Black Ops 7 will be any different. I mean, we all seen the pre-order skins, right? In fact, from the teasers and pre-order skins alone, it's clear we're going full on Mad Hatter this time around. This is what's made Battlefield return to its core identity of a gritty, explosive, modern day shooter resonate with so many people. 2042 was a disastrous attempt to chase trends and copy what they'd seen being done elsewhere, and it completely undermined what makes these games so good. We now just need to hope that not only do DICE stay true to their word and the skins that they inevitably release do indeed stay grounded and authentic to the experience, it'll help to show that things can actually be fun without being gimmicky. But this certainly isn't likely to have any impact on Call of Duty's next title. In fact, I'm not sure it'll have any impact on Call of Duty whatsoever. But I am curious to see what effects it may have on the future of other franchises. While skins don't have to remain hyper-realistic in every game that they're introduced, at the end of the day there really isn't anything wrong with expressing a little bit of creative freedom here and there. There definitely is a line where games start to lose touch with how they're supposed to feel. We're seeing that at the moment with Call of Duty, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more and more games falling down this slippery slope. Battlefield 6 really needs to show that it's worthwhile sticking to your core identity, because that's what your player base is sticking around for. And speaking of your player base, listening to and attempting to deliver on what your player base actually wants helps to create a positive perception of your game. I mean, take a second to consider that. Crazy, right? Now, it's a little unclear on how the stars aligned for this one. I don't know if perhaps EA were also massively disappointed with 2042, or if DICE simply managed to pitch a perfect curveball away from the whole hero shooters and wacky skins. Either way, it's massively paid off, and hopefully this will resonate with many other studios to actually listen to their player base, because at the end of the day, those are the ones that are either going to make or break your game. Now, as we've all experienced from the beta, Battlefield 6 ain't perfect, and in fact it's got quite a far way to go to get there, if it ever will. There are bugs, imbalances, some poor design choices, etc. that all need to be ironed out or honestly just reworked entirely. Not to mention some of their decision making around things like classes, opener locked weapons, some of the map designs and modes have really rubbed some people the wrong way, and yet we're all far more likely to look past these because, well, they're actively delivering on what the Battlefield community has been asking for well over a decade. There are going to be people that will complain about certain aspects and they're never going to please everyone. But the core Battlefield community has been wanting a gritty, modern day multiplayer shooter for, as I said at the start of this video, well over a a decade. And we're getting it. Yes, it's going to be more aligned with what modern day multiplayer gaming is like. We are going to have microtransactions, and EA is still at the head of things. So take everything with a pinch of salt, but we're getting there, and they're listening. Not only that, they're genuinely taking on the constructive feedback and refining their game further to make it work for the better part of the community. I'm sure there will still be some line in the sand moments that cause high levels of contention with the player base. For the first time in a long time, it's felt like the Battlefield community once again has a voice and it's actually being heard. A little side note to that as well is just how great their communication has been on feedback, decision making and changes. All this helps to convey the sense that they're genuinely listening to us. Now, some of their feedback has been planting their foot firmly on the ground and not shifting on decisions that they've made. Maps is a perfect example. There's been a lot of poor reception to how small and chaotic some of the maps were in the beta, and I think ultimately it was just because 3 out of the 4 maps we got were massively chaotic and close quarters. Yet they've been very firm on the fact that this has been done for a purposeful reason. They've explained why it's been done, and I'm not going to go over that in details here, but just being able to come out and explain why some of these decisions have been made, whether or not genuine, is fantastic for us as the community to better understand the approach that they're tackling some of these things with. So, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, there you have it. Communication actually does work. So before we wrap things up here, I have a little bit of an honourable mention as well. The reason I'm not including this on the main list is it is a little bit more of a subjective opinion that not only will change from player to player, but will also change from game to game. It's a little hard to suggest that what they're doing here is going to help influence other games in the space, let alone it have any effect on the Call of Duty titles because they are very different. But Battlefield 6 has certainly brought back the fun aspect of gaming. I'm seeing this a lot in the community actually, so I'm glad that many others agree, even if I am aware that this may simply be down to how painfully unfun 2042 was. But it is very refreshing to sit down and just play a game that was fun, without being flat and mundane, and actually respects my time. Again, it has all these various issues that we're hoping to get resolved, but this is a much better gaming experience, let alone Battlefield experience, than I've had in the longest time. Everything these days is either trying to be hyper realistic and super challenging with ridiculous learning curves, or as wacky, bright and fast paced as it possibly can be. We've truly lost the days of just booting up a somewhat casual military game and just getting to blow stuff up for a bit. So to round off this tale, what does this mean for Call of Duty's survival? Personally, I think Battlefield is going to produce a lot more competition than Activision is anticipating. Some of their tone-deaf responses on social media are showing a clear arrogance for the fact that Battlefield 6 will most certainly be a huge hit. And while there are many claiming that they're opting to purchase Battlefield 6 over Black Ops 7 this year, Call of Duty will still bring in more than enough through sales of skins alone to help them stay afloat. There is nothing changing that, and it's the unfortunate reality. The only way I see us making large-scale changes is with our wallets. I think what will be far more interesting to see is how Call of Duty titles adapt to recapture some of the player base that they are inevitably about to lose to the all-out warfare. This has been Studio Tea Cake, and thanks for listening.